Is the game still worth playing? Such a question is often asked, many a time on the internet, repeatedly, over and over. Scholars getting the most expensive degrees on paper could not even ever fathom if a critically acclaimed single-player game from 15 years ago would still be worth playing in the current month and year. I, certainly, often forget how good Fallout New Vegas is, so I need a mildly different sounding white boy with a left-wing political tilt to remind me every few weeks that it was a good game. My memory is just like my mortal shell, finite. With so many people posing the question of if the game is still worth playing, and basically always coming to the same conclusion, that it is, the main overarching question thus remains. What, actually, makes the game still worth playing in the current month, year, and or millennium? To answer such a question, we must first ask the question of what makes a game good. It can be summed up by the core concept Marie Kondo in her aptly named book Spark Joy covered. Does it spark joy? If not, throw it away. If one were to think about the game, in this example Fallout 4, and obtain immediate mental anguish and migraines similar to that of a pain from 1,000 stubbed toes or wearing glasses alongside an over-ear headset, it must not be good. Following this logic, you too can immediately come to the conclusion that the game is still good. It's amazing how easy it is to come to a conclusion solely based on if a game is enjoyable to them or not, and reject the naysayers who say otherwise. If only it were so easy to say that though, because that is actually wrong-think. Perpetual internet naysayers and people who like to think everything is deeper than it actually is will often snap back from positivity with, well, actually, and then tell me some bullshit explaining why some games aren't actually worth playing anymore, and thus justifies the perpetual question of whether or not it is still worth playing. And, regrettably, for the first time ever, I am deeply pained to say it. The haters and naysayers are right. Good job, haters. For while the first step in understanding the long-term value of any form of media is whether it brings joy, the second step is wondering whether or not it continues to bring joy over time. An equation similar to that of a mathematical question I would fall asleep to in my engineering classes. An excellent example of this logic path is old sports and racing games. Does anyone look back at old sports games and wish they were still playing it? Could there be any discerning difference between Madden NFL 25, 17, 20, and 25? I would not know. I don't play football games. Certainly, there are people enjoying these games at release, or at least I assume so. People keep buying them. Football is an in-the-moment sport. It is best watched when the players are current, not old, and showing signs of early-onset brain damage. Thus, one could say, no, it is not worth playing most yearly sports games after the year has passed. Half because they have old hat players, half because they are the same each year. Such a fact is why my least valuable game I own is some PGA golf game with the big dog still on it before he big dogged all over the place. Well then, what about older motorsport simulators? Excluding F1 and NASCAR, which are games that I all uniquely hate in special ways, is it still worth the time to play the original Forza Motorsport? In my opinion, it is not. Because the same amount of content from that game was carried over into the second one, and then the third one, and then the fourth one. On a gradual level, the quality marginally improved from title to title. The career paths varied, but otherwise the same car models were used, and the tracks stayed the goddamn same. Nothing changed but the presentation, which, in my objectively subjective opinion, was pretty terrible in all of them, rather bland and uninspired, especially compared to Gran Turismo. The fourth Forza was the last one to have all the content within it that was built from the previous titles, and thus it is the best of all of them. Forza Motorsport 5 would be completely new, and in turn be fucking terrible, and thus every subsequent Forza built off of it was also terrible. I hate all of them, especially the reboot one. I hate that one the most. Phil Spencer is a false prophet. He is not to be trusted. He will oversee the publishing of the worst Xbox games of all time and then tell you that they are actually good, literally pissing on you and saying it is raining. Anyway, none of this has anything to do with arcade racing games. They are always good. Burnout Paradise lives eternal. Anyway, games with a year in them, mainly sports games, are all immediately dated upon release. This is why The Order 1886 was received so poorly. It came out at least a century late by my measurement. It certainly did look good, though. It had rather splendid graphics, the only positive thing about it. Fancy schmancy graphics are always in vogue. People who only play Call of Duty every year will look at any game that doesn't have photorealism in it and say, hey, it looks like a PS2 game. Well, on one hand, this is an unfair shadow cast upon the PlayStation 2. On the other hand, it is a sobering reminder that healthy people live in the now, looking towards the future and only cast wistful glances on the past in remembrance. For people like me who don't read, what I'm trying to say is that people like remastered games. They want the old thing, but new. Such a problem then asks the question, is a game that receives a remaster, or a remake, or HD re-release, or whatever the hell the distinction is the original game still worth playing? In recent times, Resident Evil has overcome making really shitty games by remaking the old games that were not shitty. And by remake, I should specify it's a remake. Nothing is taken from the old games. Everything is different, and all for the better. Aside for the remake, which is equitably dog water in every conceivable manner. Critically acclaimed, these games are excellent in quality, which begs the question, is it still worth playing the old original versions? Well, in the case of Resident Evil 2 and 4 remakes, so much has changed. I would claim that these are new games, almost wholly unrelated to the originals except in vibe and essence, meaning that yes, it is still worth playing the originals. Where is the line drawn, though? When is it that enough has changed to warrant that the game is different enough to be considered new? A simple HD overhaul may be enough to have one create disregard for an older version of a game, similar to all the litany of HD remakes that came out on the PlayStation 3, aside for the Silent Hill one, that's ass. The fact of the matter is, if the game has a mild visual overhaul and no change to the core gameplay, it is in my objective opinion that one may disregard the old version. Unless your mind is trapped in the past, like a rat trapped in a cage with a 6-foot opening, it is okay to let oneself play the slightly newer one, unless it's worse than the original. Demon's Souls Remake is, rather aptly, a remake of the original Demon's Souls on the PlayStation 3, a console that had no games in its first half of life, recreated for the other console with no games for its entire life, the PS5. However, many people who spend considerable time thinking about bullshit that doesn't matter, like me, have decided that the PS5 remake is bad because it ruins the original artistic style of the original. If this wasn't the only other Souls game I did not like, would I have a better opinion on this nuanced topic? Yes. Does this Demon's Souls remake look pretty? Yes. If one were to never play the original Demon's Souls, like me, would one even notice the visual differences? I'm gonna go with no. The game is, for the most part, quite fine if you like boring Souls games. The only reason one would dislike it is if the internet told them to hate it. Conversely, Silent Hill 2 HD on PS3 is bad. It looks ugly in ways even people who have not played the original will notice. Thus, it has a net negative impact on one's perception of the game. Playing Silent Hill 2 original Xbox on a Xbox 360 is actually even worse though. Shit just doesn't even work. The Silent Hill 2 remake of 2024, however, is different enough in ways to make it unique, but the same enough in ways for me to boldly claim that one can play either and still gain enjoyment and appreciation of why people say that this game is one of the greatest of all time. I should also say that playing Silent Hill 2 on any platform and in any fashion still puts one way ahead in social cachet than 3 total quarters of the Silent Hill fanbase who actually never played the game. Age wearies one's perception of the past depending on how one experienced it within that period. A replay of an old game may alter one's former nostalgia bias into nostalgia confirmation. Just like me replaying Nickelodeon Party Blast, I did not realize until recently that that game was actually bad and I was a gullible child. Yet, at least I was able to still play it in the modern age. The ultimate answer to if a game is still worth playing is if it can still be played at all. People will forever cry about losing the mega mid-game, The Crew, and with good reason. It was stolen from them by that truly terrible French company, Ubisoft. Whether or not a game is bad doesn't mean it should be taken from a person or community. Although, to be honest, I wish someone would take all the copies of Battlefield 2042 away. The world would be a better place. A game, then, is not worth returning to if it cannot be played, in case it needed to be said. To circle back to the last question, what about an old game that was really good when it came out but hasn't gotten a remaster or port? Could this game still be good? Certainly, a question like that is more complex than the other ones I asked. Nuance exists in every corner, in the most unfortunate places, giving the correct leverage for the multitudes of people with half an English degree and too many boilerplate opinions to otherwise give background noise to those stroking the sword and lamenting social realities. If the game was good and it can still be played, well, oh by gosh, by golly, I bet it's still good to play. Sorry, I don't have a better answer. I just like the sound of my own voice. Subscribe.